we are part of UNASA Human Rights. We're part of the subcommittee, and today we're going to be talking to you guys about mental health. I'm Tumaini Chikoti, third year at Stellenbosch University.
I'm Nangoku Mlahlwa, also a third year student studying international studies at Stellenbosch University.
I'm Emma Fookwe. I'm fourth year social work at Stellenbosch as well.
So first of all, we have quite a few things to discuss about. To mainly want to discuss about dealing with anxiety, and we have a speaker from UCT. Her name is Vuyo Tshwele. She's a 9-year-old studying Bachelor of Music with psychology, working towards becoming a music therapist. She's passionate about mental health and advocating for equality. She studies flute as a primary instrument at UCT, and she writes articles for her campus. She has a podcast called Pillow Talking, and her first episode was dealing with anxiety, so we just thought she'd be perfect for our topic today. We just wanted to really hear voices from the youth and how people are dealing with anxiety during this time. Hi, Vuyo. Thank you for coming and being with us. We were really impressed by your Pillow Talking podcast and really excited to hear more about it. So just to start off, I just wanted to ask, in your podcast, Pillow Talking, as I just mentioned it, you've talked about anxiety, and as a start, we wanted to ask you, what is anxiety to you?
Well, anxiety to me is a general or intense worry that is either triggered by an event or that's just there, even if there is no triggering event. And it usually manifests in something abnormal, like a cramping stomach or like general discomfort or insomnia or fatigue or an interrupted appetite.
I know that there's quite a big difference between actually feeling anxious and actually having anxiety. Could you differentiate that for us, please?
Right. So the thing is, with anxiousness, it's usually towards a situation, and then when the situation has passed, so does the anxiousness. But with anxiety, there could be a triggering situation, it could be general, but doesn't mean that it will go away. So you will always feel that prolonged worry, and you will always feel really adverse side effects, we could say. And you could either be high functioning if you have anxiety, so you're somebody who works really hard, and that's sometimes perceived as an A-type personality, or you could be low functioning, which means that you don't want to do anything, or the worry itself is so big you can't get to doing the task or get to facing that challenge. So that's the bigger difference between anxiety and anxiousness.
Personally for me, I'm feeling anxious because I have a bunch of deadlines that are due.
Right.
A lot of things, and I know that after I'm done with this, I'm going to feel fine to some extent, I guess, as fine as I can be during the pandemic. But I also just wanted to ask you, what are the different ways in which someone could cope with anxiety?
Well, it does depend on what kind of anxiety you have, especially in my personal opinion. So I usually have high functioning anxiety, and for that, what you can do is control what you can. So you can't control a pandemic, but you can control your deadlines. You can control your sleeping pattern. So it helps to ground you, basically. If you're somebody who has insomnia, as a side effect, you could make a sleep schedule or do things like listen to binaural music to trick your brain into getting into a normal sleep pattern. Or you could do some grounding exercises, like if you're having a panic attack, at that moment, you can list some things in the room. You can list some things about yourself. So you could say, this is a blue pencil case, or I'm in a room with 7 dimensions, for example, stuff like that, just so that you can understand where you are. And maybe the most general remedy you could use is to learn your triggers and avoid them as best as possible. So there's some things you can't avoid, like exams, but there are things that you can avoid. If you don't like being around drunk people, then avoid that kind of situation, just to reduce the things that you can reduce.
All right. Thank you so much. Guys, please make sure you listen to her podcast because it was chef's kiss. It was amazing.
Thank you so much.
just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us and talk to the people who are going to watch this, wherever they are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And this is an honor. Like, thank you so much for picking me.
All right. Thank you so much. Wish you have a good day and a good year, hopefully, and stay safe out there.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. So after doing some research and a recommendation from one of our fellow subcommittee members, we found a really nice video of Jada Pinkett Smith's Table Talk. I would recommend it to a lot of people. You can go watch it. She covers like a variety of issues, and she has different guests to discuss this issue. So we found a really good video on anxiety, and in this video, I think they described the science of anxiety. I think a lot of the time people don't understand that, you know, anxiety as well as other mental health disorders can be genetic. Like it's hereditary. If maybe your parents suffered from anxiety, there's a good chance that you might get the disorder as well. And also like just like chemical imbalances in your brain and that sort of thing do result in mental health disorders such as anxiety. And I think that's something that people need to know and they need to be aware of, because a lot of the time people don't take mental health seriously because they don't think it's a real thing. And I think the science behind the fact that there's a science behind this just proves that it's something that should be taken seriously. So here is the video.
3, 2, 1.
On this Red Table Talk, millions are struggling with anxiety, fear, and panic.
It's okay, and to really normalize that any reaction at this point is okay.
Right.
Don't judge your reaction. And also helping them not feel crazy. Right now, a lot of people are interacting with the world from the fear part of their brain.
Yes.
Okay, so that part of the brain is a name. It's called the amygdala, which is a word for almond. It's literally shaped like an almond.
Right.
And that part of the brain is all fear all the time. It's like the scary network in your brain, okay? Always playing horror films. And so when your amygdala is on, all you do is see everything as a threat. The smallest thing feels like a catastrophe.
Totally.
The problem is right now for a lot of people, their amygdala is driving the car, and what should be driving the car is a part of the brain we call the prefrontal cortex. That's right here.
Okay.
And that part of the brain
It's bigger than the amygdala.
It's bigger, but honestly, the amygdala is a scrappy little fighter because it'll just take it down.
Like, I don't care how big you
I don't care how big you are. I'm running the show. And that's, in fact, in people who have anxiety disorders or anxiety, the amygdala is actually sending all of this fear-based information. And your frontal cortex is saying, actually, because the frontal cortex handles things like how we regulate emotion, how we inhibit responses, how we make good decisions, even things like empathy. But when it's all fear, 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 we are not able to make a rational decision.
Next up to speak, we have Emma Fookwe, who's actually part of our team. She's part of the subcommittee. Emma, so you also suffer from anxiety.
Yes, I do. I kind of became aware of it in high school. And as Vuyo mentioned, like you can get high functioning anxiety or low functioning anxiety, and I have the former. So yeah.
So how would you describe it in the way, like what are some of the mannerisms and some of the things that happen, just to help people out there as well who are not too sure that they might have this disorder to identify it and hopefully cope with it?
So I would say first is kind of you have to see a psychologist or receive counseling or see a qualified professional for it to be diagnosed, because I do think that a lot of people may see like lists of symptoms and identify it, like overthinking, like that part, overthinking and stuff like that, and then they may think they have it. But it is a big difference between the symptoms impairing your daily activities to a very certain extent. So that is important, is that you should receive a proper diagnosis. But my main symptoms, or what I feel, are mainly physical. So I get very bad nausea, I get very bad burnout, and like in high school, I used to get sick like 4 or 5 times a year. I remember in grade 10, I think I took a month off of school because I was so sick. And it wasn't because I was like eating badly or anything, it was because I was so burnt out and fatigued that I couldn't physically cope. So yeah, I also get panic attacks. But it happens maybe about once a month. So those are the mainly physical symptoms I experience. Yeah, and then the other things are overthinking. I have a big need for reassurance. Yeah, and it comes with being high functioning. I tend to focus on tasks like an insane amount to the point where I can't do anything else like eat or go to sleep until I get that one task done. So it's almost like obsessive.
Oh, wow. And do you think for you is therapy something that you think is necessary and has helped you cope with anxiety? Do you think people are able to get through this disorder by just finding ways, breathing exercises or anything of that sort to help them cope? Or do you feel that it's necessary to do both?
I think if you have the means to go to therapy, then it is a very, very useful tool, because psychologists are trained and they've done community service and they have lots of experience. So they do provide you with tools to help you cope better. But if you don't have the means to therapy, then there are definitely a lot of internet sources of breathing mechanisms and things that you can do that don't require going to therapy. But it also depends on the severity of your anxiety. So people that have very, very severe anxiety, I would always say try and go to therapy or receive free counseling or something like that. Yeah, because that is important if it's very, very severe.
Oh, all right. Thank you for that. And I just wanted to ask as well, in terms of like your support system and the people that you have around you, like how can you maybe tap into those things to in like on top of the therapy and the breathing exercises and and all those things, like how can you tap into your environment such as your family and your friends to possibly help you cope with this disorder?
Yeah, I think that having an emotional support network is very important. Even if you don't have anxiety, it is very, very important. I am someone that bottles up my feelings, and I find it very scary, and intimidating and embarrassing sometimes to speak about it. But it's such a way of venting, and it's a cathartic process to talk about it to someone. And you need to have an emotional support network around you, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. It could even be, I don't know, like a random person in class that you can bond over with, something like that, where you're just able to speak about it in a safe space and with someone that tries to understand, or that's someone that makes you feel safe.
I definitely agree with that. And just now you mentioned being embarrassed about like sharing your experiences with other people. Do you think that, just comes from like your subconscious, in the sense that the stigma surrounding anxiety and other like mental health disorders?
Yes, definitely. There's such a stigma against people that have mental health disorders, that there's something wrong with them, or that they're less than, which is one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. I have a lot of friends that also have anxiety, and they struggled to first tell me about it, and then once they learned that I also had it, was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not the only one. So I think there is a big stigma around that, and also the fact that people think that it's a myth. And I know with people with anxiety, that a lot of people think that you're just an overachiever, or you're just being dramatic, or you're just pretending or seeking attention. And I think that speaking up about it and breaking that stigma and letting people know that they're not the only one is very important for them to be able to get help.
Definitely. So obviously we're all university students, and I can only imagine how hard it must be to be in that, that pressure environment with anxiety. Do you possibly think, not just Stellenbosch University, all universities, do you think the university system as a whole can do more to support students with anxiety, and not just anxiety, just like in general mental health disorders?
Yes, definitely. I know with Stellenbosch we have the CSCD, and you get 10 free sessions. And I've used it, and the psychologists are very qualified and they are out there to help. I do think, though, that the stigma in itself has hindered a lot of people from seeking help at university, especially amongst students where they feel embarrassed and peer pressured, like to not have something wrong with them, type of thing. In terms of the university doing more, I do believe that sometimes, especially with things like test week and things like that, I do wish that they would communicate a bit more in terms of like assignment and test schedules, in terms of people taking more than one module. But I guess that's a whole loaded conversation. But yeah, I think making use of the CACD is very, very important.
All right, cool. Thank you, Emma. I just wanted to ask what you think, how we as a society, not even just like a student community, just as a society is in general, you do realize sometimes that we do live in a semi-intolerant world. So how do you think maybe various ways that we could become tolerant and, more accepting and aware and willing to help people with anxiety?
I think that being aware of your words is a very important and very easy thing that everyone can do. And just being aware when you're talking to someone that has mental health issues or experiences anxiety or depression or anything else, I think making sure that the way in which you word things just lets them know that this is a safe space. So for instance, if someone with anxiety is like spiraling and getting worked up over something which could lead to a panic attack, saying to them, you're being dramatic, or you're overthinking, or I don't know, just chill or something like that. Like, we know that we're overthinking and we know that this is probably not helping, but sometimes it is really out of our control, and we just need someone to kind of make it known that they're there for us and that this is a safe space and that they're not judging us. So that is very important. And yeah, just trying not to judge people, and when they speak up, let them speak up, and listening to understand instead of listening to reply is also an important thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Emma. Thank you for coming on this platform and just opening up about your experiences of anxiety. Really appreciate it.
Hello again.
Hi. What's up?
So just to finish off, we just wanted to ask if you could join us again as Emma leads us through a breathing exercise that she goes through with whenever she wants to feel grounded again.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you probably know this, but whenever I start to spiral, or if I'm having a panic attack, and I get that like clear moment of thought, I try and do focus on my breathing first, and then do the 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, I think it was. So it's hear, smell, then taste. Yeah.
It's all just do together if we can.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so basically you're going to breathe in through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Then out through your mouth for 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, and then just think about in your mind 5 things that you can see. And just list it in your mind. Then 4 things that you can touch or that you can feel, like your clothing or your laptop, that type of thing. Then 3 things that you can hear. So I can be one of them. If there's birds around, that type of thing.
Cars.
Yeah. 2 things that you can smell. So if you're wearing deodorant, yeah. And then 1 thing that you can taste. So if you just ate or just brushed your teeth or drank water. Yeah. And basically I try and do this to distract myself. And then, yeah, and just realize where I am and realize that this is a safe space that I'm in to like try and calm me down. And you can do it anywhere.
I was just thinking now, I'm not feeling anxious or anything, but as I was doing it, like I could pay attention to my breathing at the same time, and I could like physically feel my body just kind of like relaxing, and my breathing started evening out, and like it was quite nice.
Yeah, and if you're like spiraling most of the time, it's like it's almost out of body or something, or you're not like in touch with this is your surrounding, you are real, this is what you're feeling. And these things aren't changing. Your situation is. And then it makes it like
controlling.
Yeah.
So do you guys use it to sort of remind you just to, how can I say it, like kind of distract yourself from the panic attack that you're currently having, just to like make you aware of other things, just to distract yourself from anxious?
Because you always like it. I think sometimes it's really slow, the escalation, and sometimes it's like fast. And then when it's like fast, that's when you're like, whoa, then you need to de-escalate. And sometimes you can't even think, is it taste first or is it smell first? Sometimes it's to like yell, just to yell. And then it's like, whew, okay, like a big outburst of emotion, and then move on.
Especially if you're spiraling, you get so wrapped up in your thoughts, and especially like what can go wrong, what is going wrong, and it literally snowballs from there. And it's just a way to just like stop yourself and just become grounded again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. This was really nice.
Thank you.
And I hope what we did and what we talked about helped someone out there, whoever's watching. And thank you.
I hope so too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.